Right now, you're hurtling through space at over 1,000 miles per hour. You don't feel it, you don't see it, but the ground beneath your feet is in a constant, furious spin. What if, for just 5 seconds, it stopped? Not a gentle break, but an instant, planet-wide whiplash. The air, the oceans, and your own body would keep right on moving. What happens when the world beneath you suddenly slams the brakes? For 5 seconds, the world stands still, a silent pause in its cosmic dance. 5 seconds of absolute, terrifying silence on a planetary scale. But when it lurches back to life, humanity would awaken to a planet transformed. This isn't just a thought experiment, it's a look at the fundamental forces that govern our very existence. The steady rotation of our world is the invisible hand that dictates our days, our weather, and our survival. Halting it, even for a moment, is like pulling the pin on a grenade the size of a planet. We're going to break down, second by second, what would happen if the Earth hit the brakes and then slammed the accelerator again. From the initial moment of impact to the harrowing aftermath, we'll explore the supersonic winds, the world-ending tsunamis, and the terrifying new reality that would await any survivors. This is a scenario of such complete devastation that it pushes the boundaries of our imagination. The first second. The moment the Earth stops, one simple law of physics takes over: inertia. It's the same thing that throws you forward when your car slams on its brakes. Your body tries to keep moving at the speed the car was traveling. Now, let's scale that up to the size of a planet. Of course, an instantaneous stop is physically impossible and would require unimaginable forces. But let's pretend we have a magic switch. At the equator, the Earth's surface is spinning at a blistering 1,670 kilometers per hour, about 1,000 miles per hour. The instant the solid planet halts, everything not fused to the deep bedrock would continue its eastward journey at that same incredible speed. This isn't a gradual push. It's a violent, instantaneous decoupling of the surface from everything on it. Picture a city. One moment, life is normal. The next, every person, car, building, tree, and even the topsoil itself is launched eastward at supersonic speeds. It wouldn't feel like wind, it would be a shearing force of unimaginable power. People wouldn't just be blown away, they'd be flung into a horizontal blender of concrete, metal, and earth, all moving at the speed of a bullet. But the speed isn't the same everywhere. As you move from the equator toward the poles, the rotational speed drops. In Miami, you'd be moving at around 1,500 kilometers per hour. In Paris, it's closer to 1,100. Near the poles, the speed is almost zero. So while an observer at the South Pole might just stumble, the rest of the world would experience a cataclysm graded by latitude. However, no one would be safe because of our atmosphere. The air we breathe would also continue its eastward momentum. For a horrific moment, the entire atmosphere would become a global supersonic wind, moving at over 470 meters per second at the equator. This is a force that would make any hurricane look like a gentle breeze. It wouldn't be a storm, it would be a planetary-scale sandblaster, scouring the landscape, atomizing structures, and eroding the very surface of the continents. The friction between this moving air and the stationary ground would instantly heat the air to scorching temperatures, sparking global firestorms that would consume whatever wasn't already airborne. Within a single second, the surface of the Earth would be unrecognizable. The sounds of civilization would be replaced by the single, deafening roar of a planet tearing itself apart. The 5 seconds of stillness. And then, for 4 more seconds, a strange stillness falls over the planet's rocky shell. The solid Earth isn't rotating. But this pause is no relief. In this brief window, the true world-breaking consequences begin to unfold. The most terrifying of these is the movement of the oceans. The planet's vast bodies of water, with their colossal mass, are not bound to the bedrock. Their momentum carries them forward, unchecked. The entire Atlantic Ocean would surge eastward, sloshing in its basin like water in a suddenly stopped bucket. This surge, thousands of meters deep, would begin a catastrophic journey, preparing to swamp entire continents. Water levels on the western coasts of Europe and Africa would drop dramatically, exposing the seafloor for miles, while on the eastern coasts of the Americas, a terrifying wall of water would begin to build. At the same time, the very shape of the Earth would be under assault. The Earth isn't a perfect sphere. Its spin has caused it to bulge at the equator by about 21 kilometers in radius. This bulge is a direct result of centrifugal force. When the rotation stops, that force vanishes. Under its own immense gravity, the Earth would start to relax into a more perfect sphere. This shift would place unbelievable stress on the crust. Tectonic plates, which normally drift as slowly as your fingernails grow, would be hit with immense new forces, likely triggering the most violent earthquakes in history. These wouldn't be localized to fault lines like the Ring of Fire. They'd be a global spasm of the crust, tearing open vast new fissures miles long and deep. This catastrophic shifting would almost certainly trigger volcanic eruptions on a scale humanity has never witnessed, as magma chambers were squeezed and cracked open. So in these 5 seconds of stillness, the world is anything but peaceful. It's being pummeled by supersonic winds, threatened by surging oceans, and shaken apart from the inside out. The restart. 5 seconds pass. An eternity of destruction. And just as the chaos reaches its peak, the unthinkable happens again. The Earth snaps back into motion, instantly returning to its 1,670 km/h spin. This restart is a whole new catastrophe. Everything that was flung eastward is now on a surface that is suddenly rushing back to meet it. The debris field of what was once our civilization, still traveling east, would now be slammed and ground into dust by the westbound surface. The real chaos would be in the oceans. The massive bodies of water still surging east would suddenly feel the seafloor accelerating westward beneath them, creating a colossal rebound effect. The eastward-moving tsunamis would clash with new westward-moving impulses, turning the entire surface of the ocean into a churning maelstrom of rogue waves of unimaginable height. New tsunamis moving in the opposite direction would ensure any coastline spared the first onslaught would be targeted by the second. The atmosphere, which had become a skin-peeling supersonic wind, would be violently dragged back into motion. This would create atmospheric turbulence on a scale that's hard to fathom, generating continent-sized shockwaves and fanning the global firestorms into a thick, poisonous soup of smoke and volcanic ash. For anyone who might have miraculously survived in a deep, specialized bunker, the second jolt would be the final blow. Structures weakened by the stop would be shattered by the restart. The seismic stress on the tectonic plates would reverse, causing another round of planet-wide earthquakes as the crust readjusted to the renewed forces of rotation. The brief stillness has given way to a prolonged period of planetary agony.
The aftermath. In the minutes and hours that follow, the horrifying scale of the disaster becomes clear. The kinetic energy given to the oceans has been fully converted into tsunamis, but calling them tsunamis feels like an understatement. These are global surges of water, hundreds of meters high, moving at the speed of a jetliner. On the east coast of North America, a wall of water carrying the force of the Atlantic surge would strike. It wouldn't just destroy cities like New York, it would wash inland for hundreds, maybe thousands of kilometers, scouring the landscape. The water would be a thick, abrasive slurry filled with the pulverized remnants of cities, forests, and topsoil, stripping entire continents down to bare rock. Meanwhile, the Pacific would crash into Asia and Australia, and the Indian Ocean would inundate India and the east coast of Africa. No coastline would be spared. The world's great rivers, like the Amazon and the Nile, would see their mouths overwhelmed by a torrent of salt water and debris pushing far upstream. The atmosphere would be an unbreathable nightmare. The friction-ignited firestorms would be raging across every continent, consuming the splinters of what used to be 3 trillion trees and the rubble of our world. The smoke, combined with the immense amount of dust and volcanic ash, would turn the sky black. And from the ruptured crust, hundreds, if not thousands, of volcanoes would be bellowing, spewing ash and sulfur dioxide into the upper atmosphere. This isn't a regional disaster, it's a simultaneous worldwide event. Every point on the planet's surface would be experiencing some form of cataclysm. After the fire and floods, what's left? A ghost of a planet. Humanity, a species of nearly 8 billion, would be reduced to a handful of profoundly unlucky survivors. Those who were deep underground in stable geologic locations, perhaps in mines in Canada or Siberia where rotational speed was lower, might have survived the jolts. But they would emerge into a world that is completely alien and hostile. The entire infrastructure of civilization would be gone. No power grids, no internet, no roads, no hospitals. The accumulated knowledge of our species, every book, every piece of art, every byte of data, pulverized. The world would be reset to a state more primitive than the Stone Age on a planet whose basic systems are now broken. One of the most profound changes would be to our planet's protective magnetic field. This field is generated by the complex dance of molten iron in Earth's outer core, a process tied to our planet's rotation. A violent stop and start like this would be like throwing a wrench into that planetary engine. While it likely wouldn't collapse instantly, the geodynamo could be severely disrupted, potentially leading to a dangerously weak and unstable field for centuries or millennia to come. Without a robust magnetic field, the surface would be bombarded by far more solar and cosmic radiation. This radiation would not only be deadly for any survivors, but could, over vast geologic timescales, slowly help strip away our atmosphere and water. The climate would be shattered. The massive amount of volcanic ash and smoke in the stratosphere would create a volcanic winter. This thick veil would block sunlight, causing global temperatures to plummet. Photosynthesis, the foundation of nearly all life, would largely fail. The air itself would be toxic, as huge amounts of sulfur dioxide would mix with atmospheric water to create corrosive acid rain, poisoning any remaining freshwater sources. The familiar 24-hour day-night cycle would return, but it would illuminate a landscape of absolute ruin. The geography would be permanently and unrecognizably altered by the tsunamis and earthquakes. Surviving wouldn't just be about finding food. It would be a constant struggle on a planet whose life support systems have been shattered. The long, slow process of planetary recovery would take millions of years. For humanity, the story would be over. This whole scenario is a stark reminder of the delicate, spinning balance that makes our world livable. The forces at play are on a scale that's hard to wrap your head around, turning our stable home into a death machine in seconds. It makes you wonder, what other cosmic impossibilities are out there? We love exploring questions like, what if the moon disappeared? Or what if we drilled a hole through the Earth? If you enjoy pushing the limits of science and imagination, make sure you subscribe and hit that notification bell. And let us know in the comments what if scenario you want us to tackle next. Your idea might just become our next video. So what if the Earth stopped spinning for 5 seconds? The answer is a world erased. In less than it takes to watch this intro, our planet would transform from a vibrant, living world into a desolate sphere of fire, water, and rock. The initial jolt would scour the surface clean, the pause would unleash biblical floods and planet-shattering earthquakes, and the restart would seal the deal, ensuring the destruction was absolute. The aftermath would be a long, dark winter on a mortally wounded world. It's a terrifying scenario, but it highlights a beautiful and profound truth. We all exist on a knife's edge, in a perfect, spinning equilibrium we take for granted every moment. Our stable ground, our breathable air, our predictable days, all are gifts of a relentless cosmic motion we can't even feel. The Earth's constant spin isn't just a feature of our planet, it's the silent, tireless engine of life itself.